All right, we are live. Welcome to another Mile High Insiders, which I know you might be thinking that maybe it was an old throwback to Orange and Blue View from the olden days because we got Ron White in here instead of Luke Patterson, who normally is on the show with me. But Ron White, thank you for jumping in for Luke, who's got some very important things to take care of and do today. So thanks, Ron. How are things?
Oh, no problem. It's always great to fill in for anyone. And again, things are great. Today's good because the first training camp practice is in the books for your Denver Broncos. So,
Yeah.
and watching some of the clips, Thomas, it's been nice to see a few of your
Yeah.
Broncos players, and one in particular for sure
Yeah.
we'll be getting into momentarily. But yeah, all is well for me.
Well, I am not disappointed that you're on the show. I'm disappointed that Luke's not here because I wanted to gloat a little bit because last week he had me do. We were kind of doing some predictions,
Okay.
and so some of them are coming true that I predicted. So and one of them being Cortland Sutton's back at camp. I was like, oh yeah, he'll be there, and so I got that one right. I talked a little bit about Javonte Williams is going to be the starter, so we're going to get into that.
Mhm.
And then a kind of an unknown, which was Jonas Griffith. I said that he was going to be pushing for a starting role. So we'll see what happens. But right now, my predictions are looking pretty good. So unfortunately, I couldn't go gloat to Luke this week. let's let's welcome in David McIlrath. Thank you so much for the super chat,
Thank you,
David.
Dave.
Really appreciate it. Always here with the positivity, saying good evening, Broncos country. Luke, Tom, and Deacon Scott. Well, not Luke, it's Ron, but Luke is with us in spirit, I'm sure. And you got all these hashtags, David. You got the 12 and 5. You got your optimism going. You got your Buckham, Mile High Huddle for life, Knicks for 6, Denver Broncos for life. I think I'm glad you're here, David, because we have some optimistic news coming out of training camp. So we're going to jump into that. But I'll say hi to a few other folks that are
Thank you,
jumping
Dave.
in. We got Daniel Barry Sports saying yo. And of course, we got your co host, DVA, coming in saying, sup, Broncos country. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in, share on all platforms, and subscribe if you haven't already. We've got Wolfie coming in. Wolfie Mellett's regular for the show coming in. Say good evening, my fellow Broncos enthusiasts. How's everyone tonight? Wait for yet another great episode of Mile High Huddle. So close to football season, I could smell the stadium. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited now that training camp started, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it out there like I have been the last couple seasons, which is a bummer, man. I enjoy going out there. I enjoy seeing with my own eyes what's going on, be able to make make those projections for the season or talk about things that I'm not looking at it from afar and whatnot. So it's a bit of a bummer, but I'm a little bit farther away now with that, with the move. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we've got William Contilanos coming in, also saying praying Dulcich and Kroll are a killer tight end duo, along with Troutman. It's been years since we have had a good tight end around here, and I'm sick of it. Yeah, for sure, William. I mean, we've got that to talk about. So let's jump into that a little bit. Let's talk about Dulcich, Ron. You saw the little clip that came out. Someone was able to sneak in a clip. I didn't know they were able to do that when it wasn't open to the public, but someone tweeted out a clip of Dulcich
Mhm.
looking fast, explosive. But as you know, Ron, that has never been his problem. He's athletic, he's explosive, he's fairly fast for a tight end. That hasn't been his problem. What do you make of what's your thoughts on Dulcich this season, Ron?
Yeah, so I will say the fact that Dulcich was out there was spectacular in itself. Let's first start there.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, first day looked very fast, very explosive, making numerous cuts in a lot of the routes. He looked like a receiver out there. Now, the question is going to become, even just for the remainder of camp and getting into the season, Thomas, and I think we all know, can he stay healthy?
Yeah.
Can he be available for the Broncos on game days to make that play? Because when he's out there, he's he's such a matchup nightmare. Now, is he a complete tight end? No. Obviously, you would love for him to be a little bit better, more consistent in the blocking. But the other traits that he has, I mean, the ability for him to just get open and how he can change the entire complexion of the offense. I see big plans. And as William mentioned here, maybe with some of these two tight end sets that Sean Payton may deploy, may see Dulcich and Kroll out there at the same time. So, having him available, healthy, I think would take this team a long way. But again, he just has to stay healthy. And I know that hammy has been, his bugaboo. But if he can stay healthy, Thomas, I think he can definitely do well in this offense.
Yeah, and that, like you said, that's been the problem, Ron. He just can't stay on the field. In fact, last year when he finally got back on the field, he was immediately injured. So, and he was already struggling with some injuries in the mini camps. So, for me, if he can get on the field and stay on the field, it's a bonus because I mean, I didn't mind Adam Troutman. I thought he was, seemed to be more reliable, but he had a very hard time doing anything after the catch, especially
Yes.
early in the season. You need that. You need someone with a little bit more dynamic athleticism who can really kind of scare a defense. And I'm not saying that Greg Dulcich is that guy, but he has the potential to be that guy based on his athletic traits. Right now, there isn't, other than maybe Mims, that anyone that really can scare the defense, and hopefully Dulcich can stay on that field and stay explosive like we saw earlier in the day here when they were showing that clip. That would be great. But again, man, stay healthy. We got Michael Ronquillo coming in saying, "Good evening, Thomas and Ron on Mile High Insiders. Go Broncos." Yeah, thanks for jumping in here, Mike. Appreciate it. And Phil McLaughlin coming in with some Facebook stars. Thank you very much. Saying, "Good evening, Thomas, Ron, and Deacon Scott. What are the odds we both get Dulcich and Patrick for the season? Buckham, Mile High Huddle for Life, and BFL." I think it's pretty low based on their history, unfortunately. I mean, they have been dealing with injuries that have sidelined them in college and in the pros. Man, it would be a cherry on top if they both made it, but I think it's pretty slim, Phil. I really do.
Man, thank you, Phil, for coming in with this question. As much as we would love for this to happen, I say there's a 0% chance that this happens. I'm with the producer here in the window. He's saying 0. I'm right there with him, just because these injuries for the both of them have been, they've just been bad, and they've been happening a lot throughout the past few seasons. Now, maybe to kind of get more into this question of which one do I see maybe being there for most of the season, if not all the season, I'm going to say Patrick. I'll probably say Patrick. Again, we'll see how, as training camp continues, again, for Greg Dulcich, if that hammy, continues to not be an issue. But, I would say Patrick kind of in the long run. I know he's coming off that Achilles injury, but yeah, Phil, to have both would be great, but I just don't see both staying, healthy for the rest of the season.
Yeah, my feeling is you might not even see, even if Tim Patrick stays healthy, you might see him on another team. That he might be one of those veterans that don't make the team, even though he's playing all right and staying healthy. So, from my perspective, I would be happy if Dulcich played half of the season. I really would, based on what we've seen since he came into the league. I'd be happy with it. I don't think either one of them. Neither one of them are going to be healthy for the full season, or even on the team for the full season. In my mind, they're I'm going with history. They're going to get hurt. They're going to miss some games. But if they don't go on IR and they just miss a few games and get back, or short-term IR or something like that, and can contribute towards the end of the season, I'll be happy with that for sure. Yeah. The other thing too that I found interesting, and it was it's been a very hot topic with Luke and I, is Javonte Williams. There's
Mhm.
another guy who people really had doubts about going in the season, and the rumors were, and people that were out there watching mini camp stuff, that he was sluggish, slow, not explosive. Luke was thinking that he may not even make the team based on his lack of explosion. But now they've got reports coming out. He lost some weight and he's looking good, looking fast. What do you make of that, Ron?
Yeah, I saw the clips today of him, and yeah, I'm glad that he was able to cut some of that weight down. As Sean Payton alluded to, he looks sharp, he looks different. He looks like he's very proud of him for cutting that weight. I know Sean Payton also referenced, him being looking at the college film and saying, "Hey, this is the running back that I want." You at this size. Um, we'll see how it shakes out when he gets the pads on, obviously, Thomas. But from what I've seen so far, um, I like it. And I think, as far as this running back room is concerned, I know there were issues of, I wouldn't say issues, but maybe he wouldn't be the starter,
Yeah.
But I think they're going to give him that shot. And Javante also knows that he has some pressure on him. He got Audric Estime waiting in the wings, Jaleel McLaughlin as well, with P. Ryan. So there is some pressure for Pookie to step up and perform. But I think, again, with him, with the cutting of the weight, him kind of looking sharp out there, I do think, looks like he's going to be RB1. Are they going to give him that shot?
Yeah. And speaking of liking what we're seeing with big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. But with Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about a gotcha ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month, when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plan, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected coverages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan, and bring your phone number along with your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month.
Yes, to get this new offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/huddle. That's mintmobile.com/huddle. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/huddle. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower above 40 gigs on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Yeah, so I just want to jump back into this running back situation, and obviously we're talking about Williams, Javonte Williams, looking much better than the speculation was earlier in the year. But I think this running back group might be a lot different than what we saw last year, Ron. And I said that I've been talking about P. Ryan might being one of those veteran cuts that people don't really expect to see coming. So you might see Williams with Estime, and I think there's going to be a battle between McLaughlin and Watson. I think that's a battle that we got to keep our eyes on. I love McLaughlin. I think it's a great story, but I think Watson's going to be pushing for a spot on this running back roster. So we may see some different stuff. George Fox, thanks for coming in, saying thanks, guys, for insight into our team. No, thank you for being here, George. Really appreciate
Thank you,
it.
George. We
So,
appreciate it.
Ron, what do you make of that running back situation outside of Javonte Williams?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd say, they'll have 4. Now, I think prior to Watson being placed on NFI, I had him as one of the starting 4. Coming out of college, undrafted, the guy is very versatile. And I know Sean Payton likes that in him. But I honestly think, Thomas, that with him being on NFI now, it's not probably a minor setback, and I know they can bring him back, bring him back on the team in camp.
Sure.
So it depends on when he comes back. How does he look? How does he perform? But again, I see. Again, if they keep 4, obviously, I do think P. Ryan is going to remain. But if it's 3, Javonte, Jaleel, and then Audric.
Yeah.
Are the 3 I'm thinking. So we'll see what happens. I know P. Ryan's kind of been that guy, that Swiss Army knife last year. But I think, again, given how the running back room is constructed and based on what Sean Payton wants to see out of his running backs, those are probably the 3 that fit more.
It's going to be a battle, and I can't wait to see who comes out on top. Phil McLaughlin coming back in. Thank you so much, Phil, saying, well, guys, based on my last question, which was Patrick and Dulcich, how much time they're going to see the field. If one or both are injured or move on, do we pick up a free agent after training camp? I think we do. I think the Broncos will do that for the tight end position if Dulcich is out. I don't think they will if they cut Patrick. I think they've got I've been on record saying their skill positions doesn't scare anybody, but I think they've got quite a few players that they like at the wide receiver position, especially with Sutton back in camp. And that was the big turn of events, right? The speculation was he's going to hold out, but he's back. He's back in practicing. You've got Mims, who hopefully doesn't have a sophomore slump, who ascends to that kind of explosive, scare the defense type player. You've got the Reynolds. You've got Troy Franklin. You got a few options. Little Jordan Humphrey still around. I don't think they're desperate for a wide receiver, but tight end, it is definitely a possibility.
Yeah, Phil, again, thank you for chiming back in. And I agree with Thomas. If there's an injury to Dulcich, expect them to look at the free agent market. So got to see I'm not even sure who's out there. I can look it up. But with the wide receivers, I would think that Peyton would want to have one of his younger guys on the roster and take a chance on him, putting him in. The receiver room, again, very unproven. Yeah. There's still a lot of bodies at that position. Obviously, Sutton, Reynolds, Mims, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Vele, Franklin, so I think, if something were to happen to, a Patrick, you can definitely maybe see one of them kind of being inserted into the starting lineup. So yeah, tight end, I can see a free agent. With wide receivers, given with how deep but yet unproven the Broncos are at that position, I don't see a move happening.
And I think they were ready to move on from Tim Patrick had he not restructured his deal. If he didn't feel like restructuring, he wouldn't be on the team. So I think they were ready mentally to move on from him and go with a different crowd. And again, remember, I've been saying this, Sean Payton is ready to make this team how he sees fit. So a lot of these players from the old guard who've been around for a while, you're seeing them moving on. And that's the thing with Sutton. I kept saying, like, they're ready to move on from him if he's going to make a stink about his contract because from the old guard. And Tim Patrick is part of that old guard. So I don't think Sean Payton is afraid to move on with somebody he's more familiar with or someone he's drafted or brought in on free agency. So that's where I'm at. But, tight end just doesn't. If Dulcich isn't there, there's nobody else on this tight end group that really makes me think that they're going to make a defensive coordinator nervous at all. Eric Flynn, thank you for the Facebook stars and support. Appreciate it. Glad to see you in here. Throw some comments in the chat. We'll see what we can do. Answer those questions you may have. So appreciate it. So the other big question mark, there's a few question marks I've talked about. I want to get your thoughts on it, Ron, since it's been a long time since we've actually been able to talk about the Denver Broncos. Singleton was talking, Alex Singleton was at the podium talking about the defensive line, talking about moving fast and being out there. What are your feelings on the current makeup of the defensive line? And I'll give you mine after you're done, but what are your thoughts?
I like it. I'm encouraged. Obviously, we'll have to see, as training camp goes on and into some of these preseason games, how they gel. Are some of the issues from last year, are they going to be fixed, Thomas? I think that's the question. Now, I like the free agent additions. Malcolm Roach, love it. I'm a big John Franklin Myers fan. I think I'm one of his biggest fans. I am so happy that the Broncos picked him up. So again, I think with those people being present within the defensive line, others like the DJ Jones, the Zach Allens can eat. Even today, we know they're raving on Zach Allen. How Zach Allen was, constantly in the backfield applying pressure. So I'm going to say I'm encouraged. Again, I'm not holding my breath, but I am encouraged with what the Broncos have done to try to address a lot of those issues on the defensive line.
Yeah. Zach Allen was the darling of training camp last year, man. He was wreaking havoc on the offense, and then got into the regular season and he was just a normal, kind of guy out there. So it was a very strange occurrence. I hope it's not the same thing where he's out there beating everybody up in training camp and then kind of disappears. He needs to make that step. I think he's the one guy that I point to, one of the guys on defense that has to make that ascension this year to really make that defense a lot better. I'm kind of on the fence with the defensive line. I like the pickup of Jonathan Franklin Myers for the pass rushing aspect. I'm not, I don't know if he replaces, that anything when it comes to how porous that offense or defensive line was against the rushing attack. Now, Malcolm Roach to me could be that guy, but he's still unproven. So I think they made good additions, but I got to wait and see because are those two going to be much better than Purcell and Jonathan Harris? I think they're better. I want to see how much better they are before I sing the praises. Alex Singleton's out there talking about how fast they're moving and everything. Well, they're not in pads, they're, it's not real game situation yet. So we still got a lot to learn. But hopefully that defensive line, I don't want to see them just get run over in the running game like they did last year. Cause it was awful to watch. And that's why they lost some of their games that they did lose, because they just couldn't close it out, stop the run. And people were running at will against them, it seems. So that's a bit rough for me.
Yes.
All right. The other topic that I touched on earlier that I wanted to gloat a little bit about was the fact Cody Barton and Jonas Griffith are splitting reps in order to replace Josie Jewell. What do you make of Jonas Griffith kind of coming? Because if you remember correctly, a couple of years ago, he was the starter. He was going to be the starter. They were really high on him, bigger, athletic inside linebacker. And I think he tore his ACL. Can't remember what his exact injury. I think it was an ACL tear. And then he just kind of was regulated to, special teams duty after he came back, never really kind of healed up to get back on the field. Cody Barton was their big free agent pickup for the linebacking group anyway. And, right now they got to replace Josie Jewell somehow. And what do you make of these two inside linebackers?
Well, I am also happy that Jonas Griffith is back. It's good to have him back. I know there was a play out there today. I believe it was covering, what was it, Troutman? I believe it was Troutman. And I think the ball, I don't know if it was Nick that threw it, but I think the ball went right through like both of their hands. But again, I say all that to say, I think Griffith, again, I won't say he would be the complete answer at covering the tight ends, but I think he can help. So with that athletic ability, I think the Broncos have missed that on defense. Obviously, we know what Alex Singleton provides, the tackling machine, but more athleticism to kind of match up with the tight ends is good. Cody Barton, we'll see. I'm not really so sure yet. I know he made a few plays out there today. But I guess maybe the best one been. But I think you'll see that linebacking core with Alex Singleton and Jonas Griffith.
Yeah, I don't want to get too excited. I mean, I don't think guarding Adam Troutman is something that people can hang
Well,
their
I'm just glad to see
hat
him
on.
out there.
I mean, I'm not
I'm just
trying to
glad to see
knock.
him out there.
Adam Troutman is a good player. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
not an explosive tight end. He's not. If you can guard Adam Troutman, doesn't mean you can guard Travis Kelce or anything like that. But
Right.
I'm a little bit excited for Jonas Griffith. I felt like they didn't improve their inside linebacking crew. They lost Josie Jewell, brought in Cody Barton. He's kind of a wash. They needed to upgrade those, both of them, in my opinion. I like Singleton's ability to tackle. I don't think that he is one of those volume tacklers that are tackling people, players late, getting padding stats after a 5-yard run or anything. I think he's very, I've done some numbers on that. He's right up there with the rest of them. The problem I have is there's just the inside linebacking crew has not created any impact plays. There's very few tackles for a loss. There's very few forced fumbles, interceptions. And I really, that's what I want to see. And so if Jonas Griffith can make that next step and stay on the field and use his athleticism, I'm hoping that he can do that, kind of create some of those impact plays. I'm not saying he will. I mean, he's still unproven for sure, but it would be nice to have somebody with some athleticism for a change, hopefully to get out there and kind of make some of those impact plays that really kind of changes the face of the game, really. And that's not what we're seeing. Singleton's a good player, solid. I mean, tackles a lot of players. It's great, but I just want to see something else. And that's why I was excited about Drew Sanders. I thought if he could stick in the middle, use his athleticism, learn the game, get his instincts down, then he could be one of those guys that, rush the passer from the middle or kind of guard a tight end, maybe get an interception. But unfortunately, he's hurt. So we got another year of question marks at the inside linebacker crew.
And then, I think now with the whole Jonah Ellis, signing, maybe were there talks of, remember they're saying Drew Sanders moving to edge, but I think that's probably kind of gone now. So, but I was high on Drew Sanders as well when he was drafted. I think the Broncos really thought he would be the guy, that more athletic linebacker, especially to hold up in coverage. But that just hasn't come out in the wash yet. But I think, Thomas, I'm looking at it more from, the Broncos just need more athleticism, and Griffith definitely does provide that at that ILB position.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm encouraged with him, and we'll see how he, if he can make some of those impact plays that we're wanting.
And he's a bigger guy too. He's 250 pounds. I mean, he's got some athleticism for his size. I mean, you can look up his, probably his combine stats, and you're going to be like, oh, it's, he's not running a 4.4 or 40 or anything. But for his size, he's very athletic, and he's hopefully not going to wear down. I know he had that injury, but hopefully he can take that punishment as well. So I'm going to grab Chase Weldner here coming in saying, who's going to wear the green dot on defense? I'm pretty sure it's going to be Alex Singleton. Chase, he's the most experienced, and if you're wearing that green dot, you've got to know you have to know the defense. You've got to have some experience. And so that's and you got to have smarts too. And the other two, maybe Cody Barton is that. I'm not sure. I'm not super high on him. I think Jonas Griffith's just got to play. He just got to go out there and not think and play. So I think it's going to be Alex Singleton for sure. And he's earned it, really. I mean, he was the better tackler out there flying around, and that's why they were happy with Josie Jewell hitting the road. And I think it was time for Josie Jewell to hit the road, but I liked him. I like the old school thumpers at the linebacker
Me
crew.
too.
But, yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that really shakes out. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree with you, Thomas, on who wears the green dot. Yeah, it's Alex Singleton. I mean, tackling machine, knows the defense, very smart, a leader. I think he's definitely gonna. And I'm excited to see, him again this year. Again, last year was good, and I'm just seeing how he does moving forward and on this defense. So
he does need to make sure he doesn't pull some boneheaded plays. That Houston Texans game, that was a boneheaded mistake on his part. Even if you didn't agree with the penalty, still shouldn't have done it. I think that actually cost them the game. I think they could have won that game otherwise. That was a dumb mistake that, cost him a game. And so he can't be doing that if he's going to keep that green dot. He's got to keep his wits about him and play fast but smart. Play fast and smart. So we got a lot of people jumping in here about Vance Joseph. Phil McLaughlin. I think talent on D is borderline. I'm with you. It's up to VJ to make the best of use of them, and that scares me. I don't think you're alone, Phil. I have not talked to Ron about Vance Joseph in a long time. So what are your thoughts on Vance Joseph returning, and do you think that he is going to be able to improve this defense from last year?
Yeah, so I think we all share that sentiment on Vance Joseph. Thoughts on him returning? I mean, I don't like it, but I'm not surprised. I think Phil, that's always been the question mark of, they're good players on defense, but can Vance Joseph make them great? Can make them better? And I'm hesitant to say that he will again this year. Now, again, we know what happened last year. Started off horrific, and they did turn the tide, and that winning streak with all the turnover luck and such. But I just think he needs to find a better way to put his defensive players in position to win, and I see a lot of issues in that regard. So I think with that, Phil and Thomas, I still, the jury's still out there.
Yeah.
As far as Vance Joseph really, taking this D line and the whole defense essentially living up there. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm not high on Vance Joseph at all. I don't think that he puts his players in position to succeed. I think he's had a couple really versatile players as he's been a defensive coordinator, and it has not gotten the most out of them. I mean, you look at Isaiah Simmons out in Arizona. I mean, that guy was supposed to be, a versatile player to play everywhere. I don't think Vance Joseph got the most out of him. I know that there was a five, and the reason why he stuck around is they had that 5-game win streak, but you cannot expect that many turnovers all the time. As soon as those turnovers dried up, the D went back to kind of being a core defense. And Phil's right. The talent on the defense is not elite. I mean, you've got Patrick Surtain, he's elite, but everybody else is either okay or not great. And it's up to the coach to put them in the right position to succeed. And I just have no faith that Vance Joseph can do that. And that's a bummer to me. I think if there was a defensive coordinator that you could really trust, I'd have a lot more faith in what this defense can do. Because I think you can get a couple people to kind of ascend from where they were last year. I talked about Zach Allen. I think he can take that next step and be a pretty good force when it comes to rushing on the inside. But they've got to manufacture plays. They've got to manufacture impact plays by putting the right defense out there at the right time. Vance Joseph is a great coach when it comes to coaching like fundamental type stuff out there on the practice field, but he just kind of is that deer in the headlights when it comes to the game, and it's a bummer. So we got Michael coming in saying, I don't trust Vance Joseph defense either. So Michael Ronquillo's with us. Thanks, Michael, for being here.
Thanks,
again. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Vance Joseph turns it around and becomes a great defensive coordinator. But as Michael says, he's coming back in. Jim Leonard's lurking for that defensive coordinator position for the Broncos down the road. I think you're right. I think that if Vance Joseph can't cut it, you might see Jim Leonard step up, or like I can't remember who said it now, but somebody said it last year that if Dennis Allen got fired from the Saints, he would be the defensive coordinator. So that might happen this year. Who knows? And you might see him, but I don't think they want to lose Jim Leonard. I was surprised that they let some of the defensive guys walk that they did, but oh well.
Yep. Thank you, Mike, for coming in. I agree. Jim Leonard is definitely lurking there in the wings. I'm a big Leonard guy, and let's see, right? And let me pull up Phil here again. Well, Michael, let's hope if VJ's D starts bad, he gets fired. And if they come out to this horrific start yet again, Michael, you can see this happening sooner than later. But yeah, again, it's all going to depend on how Vance Joseph puts his players in position to succeed on the defense.
Yeah, and I think he's on a much shorter leash this year. I think he's on a very, very, very short leash. I was surprised he made it through the season. I mean, he gave up 70 points. It was a historic beatdown to the Miami Dolphins, and the only reason it wasn't historic was because Mike McDaniel had a soft spot for Sean Payton and wouldn't kick the field goal. Otherwise, it would have been a historic beatdown. And I was on record saying if it was switched around, Sean Payton would have kicked that field goal, Mike McDaniel. So you should have just kicked the field goal because he would have done it to you. But whatever, it was still a historic beatdown. He's on a short list for sure. And I don't know how long he'll last if he starts out the season poorly. Keith Brugman's coming in, big fan of the show, and we're a fan of you, Keith, just so you know. He's got his own podcast out there. Saying Keith says, did the Broncos make a mistake letting Evero or Christian Parker go? My thoughts, I liked Evero. I thought that maybe towards the end of the season when he was a defensive coordinator, I know there were some injuries and whatnot, but it felt like his defense was getting figured out a little bit more. Didn't have as much success when he went to the Panthers, but I was surprised they let Christian Parker go. I really was.
Yep.
They replaced him with a good one. Don't get me wrong, but he seemed like an up and coming coach that they would want to keep around, and they just couldn't do it. I don't know your thoughts, Ron.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought with Evero though, he was leaving regardless, like Dylan says here. So Evero was leaving regardless just because they fired his guy before. Hackett was gone. I know Peyton approached him to kind of figure out what he wanted to do, and I think the opportunity was out there for Evero to stay if he wanted to.
Yeah.
But Evero decided to go elsewhere. But yeah, I think to answer the question here, Keith, I am really shocked they let Christian Parker go, just because I thought, Christian Parker he went for a better opportunity there. I think he went to Philly, but I do think that was more the surprise, just because of he was on the ascend, and then that relationship that he had with the defensive players. I thought he would have been the next in line for that DC position. So I would go with Christian Parker as the bigger, I think, mistake.
Well, I'm going to switch gears here, still on the defense, but Phil asks a good question like he always does, Phil. So appreciate you stopping by to ask these questions. Says, you guys think Bonitto, Browning, or Cooper could become a Batman? Maybe not with VJ. Well, I'll say I was impressed with Bonitto, right? He came into this league. He needed to develop. He needed to get strength. He needed to add some more pass rushing moves to his repertoire. And he did that in his sophomore season. Now, he wasn't Von Miller. He wasn't an elite level pass rusher, but he did what needed to be done in his sophomore season to get better and be out there on that field and make plays. And if he can do that again, if he can make that another step in this next season, then I'm really high on Nick Bonitto. I think Jonathan Cooper is a great story. What's not to like about his story and perseverance? But he kind of is what he is, and Browning just can't stay healthy. I liked him as an edge. I thought he was really impactful as a inside linebacker. He hasn't been on the field as much, and I think switching him around has stunted his growth a little bit. So for me, it's Bonitto, and whether Vance Joseph can get the best out of him is yet to be seen. But he did what needed to be done from his rookie to sophomore season. And I think that gives me confidence that he can do it again.
Yeah, this is a good question, Phil. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to agree with Thomas as far as the Batman. So the way I see it, yep, Batman, Bonitto, Robin, Cooper. Now, would you put in there Browning? Yes, but again, I mentioned it last week because I think, Phil, you brought up a question on, as far as, if I were on the Broncos, who would I extend? Like, who would I offer another contract to? And I believe the both of us, me and Dylan, said Cooper. And that's just, again, based on the availability, because Browning just hasn't been able to stay healthy. So yeah, Bonito, what Bonito can bring, it's like he's good, like quick, fast. His technique is good as well. I think he can definitely, without VJ even kind of be that Batman on another defense. Obviously, would still like to kind of see him show up in the run game a little bit more, but I would say from a pass rushing perspective and some of the technique he does, he definitely has that potential to be able.
He's more explosive than the other two as well. He's got more explosive, I think, than either Browning or Cooper. And I would be very surprised if they gave an extension to Jonathan Cooper. I think that as soon as his contract's up, they're going to explore other opportunities. I think Bonito would get a second contract if anybody is. In fact, I've been talking about if there is a surprise kind of trade, if there was anybody that had value for a trade before the season starts, if they like the rookie that they picked up, Jonathan Cooper is one of those people that they could actually get something for if they wanted to make that trade, and I think they'd be willing to do it. Not that they have anything against Jonathan Cooper, neither do I. I think, like I said, great story, seems like a great person, tries really hard. He's not elite, but they could get something for him from a team that's desperate. Somebody gets hurt or whatever, and then they'll go with Bonito, Browning, their rookie, and whatever else they can manufacture, because they have to go to the well again for edge rusher. I think if their first round draft choice next year, I said edge rusher. I keep saying edge rusher. Luke's been an offensive tackle. What do you want? Well, I want to know what you have to say about it. But I think that edge is a definitely weakness on this team, and I think they could get offer Jonathan Cooper up in trade and get what they can out of what they have this year, and then go find that elite pass rusher.
Yeah. So Luke wants to tackle it. Okay. I'm with you. Edge. I just think the Broncos need to try to find their Batman. I mean, again, I know we said Bonito has that potential to be one, but again, he still has to go out there and prove it.
Yeah.
So, if depending on where they are next year, right? I do think the Broncos just need to go ahead and get edge. Go ahead and get that elite pass rusher, and then they can maybe look at offensive tackle, maybe in another round somewhere. Because I think offensive tackle is always be a need too, for sure. But I just think edge is the bigger need, at least in my opinion.
I'm going to grab Michael Ronquillo's question here because it's a valid one. He says some of the Mile High Huddle podcast hosts didn't like the Bonito draft pick at first. Now, Michael, and the reason why they didn't is because he wasn't polished, at least from my perspective. And everybody knew that he wasn't a polished edge rusher. Maybe they took him a little early. They took him because they thought he had the potential to develop more into an elite, but he needed that polish. And people were down on him his rookie year. And I kept saying, they knew that already. If people are sitting, he's not making an impact, but he was always a development, even as a second round choice. They knew he needed to develop, and that might be why some of these other podcast hosts didn't like the pick because of that. But he did develop that, and that's why I was impressed. Like, he developed what he needed that sophomore year, and that's why I'm more impressed with what I think he can do.
Yeah, likewise. Well, I was guilty of that, Mike. Let me be honest with you. I wasn't the biggest fan of Bonito as the draft pick for the Broncos. I thought, they could have gotten other players at different positions, around that pick. But, again, the Broncos were going on potential. And you're right. There were good aspects to his game, but there were also some things that, Thomas, you saw that really needed to be worked on. Like, I know he really had to get his weight up, and I know with him stopping the run was also a big issue.
It still is.
And it still is, right? So again, there's still some things there that he definitely needs to clean up, and was of concern when the pick happened.
Yeah.
But, and again, so what I just said, he still needs to improve on the run. But again, from what you've seen from a pass rushing perspective and how quickly he has improved, I think you'd only be encouraged if you were the Denver Broncos. So,
And let's face it, pass rush is the name of the game right now. I know that they need to be able to stop the run and set the edge, but if you can't get after the passer, it doesn't matter anymore.
man.
It just doesn't. I mean, too many people teams are passing more. I mean, it's a passing game now, and the name of the game on defense is to get to the quarterback,
Yep.
and that's what you need. So I'm not as worried about his run defense, but the other thing that really bothers me about some of the moves at edge rusher. What do you think of Benito had Von Miller still been on the team instead of getting traded away, having Randy Gregory, who the guy doesn't care about playing that much from my perspective, kind of gave up. Have someone that, I mean, I know they've got coaches that can teach him, but to have another leader like Von Miller was to help these edge rushers even get better, because there is an aspect to having another player helping you improve. So that was another. I hated that move when it happened. I still do. I just think it could have been. I think it would have been more helpful, in the long run for Nick Benito.
Oh yeah, just imagine having him with Vaughn and what Vaughn can teach him. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, he could definitely. I even think he'd be a much quicker learner even if Vaughn was here. I think he even learned quicker. So, but yeah, just to imagine how that would shake out Thomas. Yeah. Yeah. And William Catalan. Yep. Gregory was such a bad signing. Yeah. Yeah, William. It was just they tried, it failed. The guy just didn't
I
care to be
hated
on the
it. I
field.
hated that signing.
Hated it.
I hate it. I mean, I get why they traded Von Miller. They wanted a few draft picks, but to replace him
Younger.
with a guy that just
Gregory.
didn't make the field enough, had trouble, all through his career. I could not stand that pick. They went ahead and did it, and it ended up being a terrible pickup. And they at least they got a little something for him when they traded him. But anyway, the edge rushers, they need to ascend, or they need to go draft an impact edge rusher. I don't know if they can get one in free agency next year. I mean, your elite pass rushers usually stay with the team most of the time, unless they're aging. And you don't, with this type of team, you want it to be young, ascending. They need to go and get that edge rusher. So,
yeah.
All right. I know we've still got a few minutes left, but
so Thomas, I want to get before, I know we have a few minutes left, but I know we can touch upon, because I'm pretty sure some people want to know about the most important position there in football. I guess just some brief thoughts on, the quarterbacks for the day. So, I guess based on what you've seen, heard, how did Stidham look? How did Bo Nix look? Zach Wilson? I guess, what are your thoughts, at least from the first day of camp?
I mean, it's not a surprise. I mean, from what they're saying is Stidham, looks like he's kind of the leader in the clubhouse, so to speak, which, he's had a year in the system. Of course, he's got more experience. You got a rookie, and you got Zach Wilson, who I don't know that if Nix can show that he's kind of the real deal. I don't know if Zach Wilson's even in their plans, even for 2024. So I think it's a two-man race between Nix and Stidham. And I think if Nix doesn't get the starting role week one, or at least week two, it's going to be a disappointment. I just don't think Stidham is the guy that can take this franchise to the next level. I think he can be a solid backup, which is what he should be. I think it's up to Nix. And I haven't seen anything that says he looks terrible. It's just that, Stidham looks like he belongs a little bit more, which is not a surprise.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I know today obviously was the first day, so they look how you expected them to look. I would say maybe Stidham had a leg up today, and you're right, he should at least, again, a little bit of a leg up, because he's been in that system for a while. But I know Bo Nix, missed several throws today, hit a few checkdowns and such. But again, that's to be expected. I'm not so concerned about Nix today. First day of camp, he has to build that chemistry with the players, kind of get his groove. But if there's still not that big gap between them, you start Nix. And I'm with you, Thomas, that Stidham just doesn't. He never moved the needle for me. And yeah, he may look a little better than Nixon camp, at least on the first day. That's still not enough because it's still negligible with how they look. The difference is minute. So go with your rookie, go with your upside, and have Nick start. At least that's how I see it.
You think Nix is a week 1 starter?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
Me too. He has to be. Otherwise, they're kind of. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those picks that you're going to be scratching your head if he's not.
Yeah.
I know rookies have their growing pains, but you got to get them out there on the field. So
Definitely.
Yeah, Michael Ronquillo coming in, going to take us out, saying, great show tonight, Thomas and Ron on Mile High Insiders Go Broncos. Thanks a lot for jumping in here, Michael. Really appreciate it. And with that, I'm just going to, kind of wrap it up early. Ron, thank you for being here. Appreciate you jumping in for Luke. And if y'all want to catch Ron White Saturday night, Orange and Blue View with Dylan, and both of you jump on other shows quite often. I think when hosts are out. So Ron is out there. You watch his show and watch him on other shows. So thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate everybody being in the chat, and hopefully we'll see some fireworks at camp when it comes to the quarterbacks.
Yes. And again, Thomas, thank you. It's always a pleasure talking to you and everyone, all of you guys out there. Make sure you share the pod on all the platforms and hit that like button on the way out. You all know it goes a long way.
Absolutely. Have a great night, Broncos country.
Thank you, guys. Go Broncos.